The Colorado dining scene, and particularly in and around the Denver area, has expanded notably the last 3-4 years, and a very recent announcement points to more expansion and growth for the culinary industry here, at least for those who care about fine dining and the relative foodiness of a place, as it were. This is a big deal because the most prominent award giver in the culinary world just announced a significant expansion in our fair state. I'm talking, of course, about the Michelin Guide and Michelin stars and all that comes with that. The good, the bad, the baggage. Here's what's going on. I got an Axios Denver article pulled up here. Michelin Guide expands to cover all of Colorado. This announced in February 2026. This is a big step forward for the food scene in the state, and particularly some Denver suburbs that haven't gotten the love, even though a lot of folks think they should, since Michelin has been in town. Taking a look at the article, and by the way, I love Axios because they give you everything you need and nothing you don't and really get to the point. And they do that here. The prestigious Michelin Guide will expand to cover all Colorado starting this year, 2026, according to the company. What was it before? Well, you may remember several years ago when Michelin came here. Before that, there was no Michelin Guide, no Michelin stars in the state of Colorado. Well, they only looked at restaurants in Aspen, Boulder, Beaver Creek, Denver, Snowmass Village, and Vail. Essentially Denver, so the state's capital, of course. And then the most high dollar, some would say pretentious areas in the state, which makes sense when you're talking about the Michelin Guide. Not throwing any shade, I think it's fun to follow, but we'll get into this. What they do is on the snootier side. I don't think anybody can deny that. Well, why those places? Snootiness? Yes, of course, but also more important, and more important than most things in most contexts, money. Yeah, to get the Michelin Guide to come to your town, you have to pay them. That's how this works. That's how so many things work, right? Pay to play. It still matters, right? They still judge things objectively, far as I can tell, but local tourism boards pay Michelin inspectors, pay Michelin to come check out their restaurants, then Michelin decides whether they're going to give them a star. So the big snub last time was Aurora, at least one restaurant in particular that was left out of Michelin's first round. And then of course, when people started complaining about that, it was pointed out, well, Aurora didn't pay to play, so Aurora's not being included. Well, now the state tourism board is just paying Michelin to say, hey, could you just come look at all these places? So it says for the previous 3 years, the state gave $135,000, that's over 3 years, in incentives to Michelin. That's in addition to these local municipalities also paying. But then for 2026, the tourism office of Colorado is just going to give $100,000 just for this year. So they're upping the money and saying, look at the whole state. So this is big news for a number of restaurants that wouldn't have been considered otherwise. In particular, one to me really stands out. This is one that a lot of people were mad about initially. Like I mentioned, Annette. Annette in Aurora. It's located in the Stanley Marketplace. Annette has been well thought of as a fine dining experience for a long time. Even before Michelin was here, it was considered one of the best restaurants in the Denver metro. I have been there. I thought it was great. It's kind of funny being in the Stanley Marketplace because you got kids running around and you have a brewery and, you know, it's a food hall concept. And then there's this very nice restaurant there. And I wouldn't label Annette pretentious personally, but it fits the shared plate, small plate concept that it seems like most of the time you need to get Michelin recognition. I don't know if they have a tasting menu. I'm sure they do at times. Tasting menus seem to be the thing. They're really dominating the Michelin stars, at least here in Colorado. But Annette, very, very good for a long time. They have to be excited that they are going to be considered this go round. Back to the Axios article, they mentioned Colorado is currently home to 9 Michelin starred restaurants, and its first 2-star restaurant, which was awarded last year, I believe, Wolf's Taylor in Denver, and then another 10 restaurants are mentioned by Michelin in the guide as budget-friendly recommendations. Michelin calls this Bib Gourmand. If we look at their website here, it is a restaurant that offers exceptional food at great value. So Michelin's saying, hey, we get it. We get how we are. We get that most of these places, if you go for a dinner for 2, you're going to have to drop $500, $600, $700, $800, $900 to have a good time. We're also going to do a different category we call Bib Gourmand, where you can go out and not pay the price of a second mortgage. Nice of them. And if you look at their website, so this includes everything, but I just clicked on the Bib Gourmand distinction. So you see the Ginger Pig, Tavernetta, which is curious to me to be in this category for sure. Kazobi, Glow Noodle House, Hop Alley, and Mr. Oso, which I love that they're doing this. Mr. Oso I've been to. I think it's fantastic. It's not expensive at all, at least compared to any high-end dining here in town. Hop Alley I've been to as well. Didn't quite get it the way some people rave about it, but clearly Michelin did. These are the Bib Gourmand restaurants. But if you uncheck that filter and just look at everything that Michelin has in their guide in Colorado, you see there's 49 restaurants. So you have the Michelin stars, you have the Bib Gourmand, and then you have other things that Michelin just puts in their guide they recognize. The first one on here is the big one to me, Olivia. I was shocked Olivia didn't get a Michelin star. I think they should. No one one cares what I think, and I don't know anything, but for my money, that's one of the best experiences you can go to in Denver and have dinner. Just everything, food, service, hospitality, the whole deal. It's incredible. And that's one thing that Michelin really says to value is the service and the experience. So they include them, they mention them in the guide. They don't give them a star. Again, not a tasting menu concept, at least on the regular. So there's a bunch of restaurants here that they say, hey, these are good. But then if we just click on the stars, 1 or 2 stars, and this is the big thing in the culinary industry, you may know, 1, 2, 3 Michelin stars, those chefs, it's basically like being knighted as a chef. You are a star in the global food community. So it's a big deal to get a Michelin star. So 9 restaurants back in Bosque. You get, just looking at the photos, you see what they're doing here. It's a very artsy, very high concept type of food. You also have Alma Fondafina, which I have not been to because you can't get a reservation, but I did a video talking to Allison Reedy, food writer here in town. She loves that place. It's her favorite restaurant in town, considerably less expensive than these other places on the list, and not a tasting menu concept. So you can just go there and get food without having it be a big thing. Wolf's Taylor, that has 2 stars, much discussed restaurant. I have not personally been. And then Frasca Food and Wine in Boulder. I went to Frasca several months ago for the first time. Fantastic experience. It's everything you'd think a Michelin restaurant would be. They've been doing it up there in Boulder forever at Frasca, and so it's good to see them get recognition because I think they were kind of Colorado's, or at least the Front Range's first Michelin style meal before Michelin was a thing here in our state. And there's some interesting analysis on this new development. Molly Martin wrote this article for Westward. She's fantastic. And in her second paragraph, she mentions Caroline Glover, chef at Annette, that they will now be considered. And she says that so far, Michelin has missed the mark in a number of ways in Colorado. Though restaurants that have earned stars, Bib Gourmands, and recommended status have largely seen a positive impact. I certainly believe that. But what is she talking about with miss the mark? So she wrote a different article back in 2024 after Michelin did its second ceremony where they announced who's getting recognition. So she actually starts by saying good things about the ceremony and who was given recognition in the state. She mentions Alma Fondafina, but then talks about some picks that were a little baffling. So Bib Gourmand, coming back to this, the place is described as restaurants that offer high quality food at pocket-friendly prices. She says overall they get it right, but Tavernetta's inclusion in Bib Gourmand is very confusing. She says mystifying, and I totally agree. As Molly says, it's a great restaurant. They have a great happy hour. The Tavernetta is fancy. It's fine dining. It's owned by the Frasca Food and Wine Group out of Boulder, so it's the same people as Frasca. So what Molly says, and I totally agree, including Tavernetta in the budget-friendly options, it is not budget-friendly. That's interesting. It's almost like they didn't want to give them a star, but they wanted to give them some pat on the back that wasn't just, hey, we'll include you in the guide. So they went Bib Gourmand, or maybe they went to happy hour. I don't know. She also asks the question about the 2024 ceremony, why were there so few additions? And where she writes, the original ceremony, when Michelin kicked off in Colorado, it included 9 establishments that were recognized by the guide, versus she mentions Florida had 29 in their inaugural year. And then in the 2024 edition, Michelin made just 4 additions and got rid of 2. This is for the starred list we're talking about here. She says, what about Lucina, Spentino, Molotov, Sushi Den? If you know me, I think Sushi Den deserves a star. But Sushi Den, I think, is a great example because what it is just a fantastic restaurant, great, elite, high-level food, excellent service, been doing it for a long time. They're not super experimental, and a lot of the time that's what you see on these starred lists. The restaurants that get Michelin stars are turning foam into crackers or doing that sort of thing, which is fun. It's not a place I like to go back to over and over, but that seems to be what Michelin rewards, is the experimental part of it. Sushi Den's a great example. They're not that experimental. They're just really, really good. It does seem like they should at least be recognized by the guide, like Olivia, if not given a star. By the way, Bib Gourmand, next time they come and do it, Riot Barbecue. Keep these guys on the radar. If you talk about great food at a fair price, listen, it's barbecue, so it's not cheap, but it's certainly not tasting menu prices. These guys knock it out of the park. They've only been doing it at this location, this iteration, for a few years. The owner there, Manny, I know Bib Gourmand is actually one of his goals. I wouldn't be surprised to see them get it, and they absolutely should. Beyond that, keep an eye on Annette. Have you been to these Michelin-starred restaurants? I would like to hear your thoughts, whether it's worth the price, whether in your estimation it is on another level for a culinary experience. Weigh in. Let me know. And as a sharp left turn, I just did a video sampling Denver wings and giving them ratings. None of the wing joints have shown up in the Michelin guide thus far, although there are some very, very good ones. I'm going to put that link here. Otherwise, I love you for watching. Thank you as always. Talk soon.